15th, 2022. Lene, could we please have a roll call?
Carol?
Here.
Gerald?
Here.
Spafford?
Here.
Toom?
Here.
Wells Mangold?
Here.
Lick?
All right. Thanks for the roll call. Looking for an approval of the minutes from the UAB meeting on July 18th. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Sounds like no. Minutes are approved. This is the time in our meeting for any public comments. Any public comments? Not tonight? Okay. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, the acknowledgement of the meeting from the West Central Wisconsin Biosolids Facility Commission, July 21st, 2022. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes? I think I just had one quick comment or question, Kevin. I was reading through it and it looked like they were hoping for at the end, they acknowledged review or receipts of our non-renewal letter, and they just talked about the mutual aid agreement that they hope would move forward. Can you just comment on that?
Yeah, that was verbalized by Greg Enkestead from Ellsworth. I mean, again, I've indicated it's been a pretty amicable separation, if you want to call it that, but they were just commenting, and Greg said, I hope we can even work together to be able to come up with some type of mutual aid agreement as we move forward, that if they get in a pinch, they could come here, or we get in a pinch, we could use their facility. And so that was an olive branch, just a verbal olive branch they put out, but it was also, this continues the tone of we're going our separate ways and we both understand why. And then also too, it wasn't on last month's agenda, I said, because I didn't know if they wanted to talk about it. The reason it wasn't on last month's agenda is because they got that letter 3 days before he put out the agenda, and he said didn't have time to put it in there, so that's why it came in this month. So yeah, that was just a verbalized discussion.
And the only other thing, I guess, it just I was looking at Mondovi, and they sent their letter asking for a 1-year extension.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I thought we were the only ones leaving. Were they already on their way out the door?
Yeah, and they're a non-member as well, so they have a short-term contract. So they're building their own facility too, finally.
Okay.
So their 10 years is up and they wanted 1 more year.
Okay.
And they said if it's going to take more than 1 year, the board said they probably would do an extra fee on it if it lasted longer than that. So.
Okay. Any other discussion other than mine? All right, looking for approval of those. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to some new business. Item number 3 is the resolution approving the contract for wastewater treatment facility biosolids dewatering and drying design services. Kevin?
Yeah, in your packet, we did receive, we were excited to receive 5 proposals for that. Each of those 5 also came in and met with Dean and Bill for sure. I think I was in on, I might have been in on all of those 2 for sure. If not, I think I missed one. But those are all really productive meetings as well, and help Dean and Bill really gauge, what they could offer. So we're happy with the 5. It was a very tough decision. You can see in your scoring criteria. I'm just going to say, that there's some subjectiveness to that. Let's be honest. I mean, we have a scoring matrix, but we're going, I don't know. What should we give this one, an 8 or a 7 and that type of thing. But we had 2 that tied, and it took us a day to weed it out. Price that you see in your packet for Strand looks much higher. I will say that they did give a range, and that is the high end of their range. And in talking to Strand, we indicated we intend to negotiate on the lower end of their range, which they understood. Also in the resolution, you'll see that we're not saying a specific dollar amount. We're giving Scott Simpson the authority to negotiate that with Strand, just for that reason, that we didn't want to tie down to a specific number today. So in the packet, it does look like they're higher. Chris finished this memo, and I endorsed it, of course, but that was the high end of the range that they had it. And if you looked in the packet, in the internal folder, you could have looked through and seen all that as well. But I'll tell you right now, when I talked to Jim Smith, who's a subcontractor for Ayers, we had a very good discussion. And I indicated to him that he did nothing wrong. I mean, that they put a proposal together that really was very, very good. They have a lot of experience. Jim came here and was very interested in the project. He bonded well with our guys. There was no issues there at all. I did do an analogy with Jim. I said we had trouble. I mean, it was kind of like a sporting event where the last play is you're not sure, and the referees go under the hood. We were under the hood for a day, and we were looking at every angle. And I finally left it up to Bill and to Dean, and I said, "Who do you want to work with?" Because everything else is pretty equal. And they said, just from past, we had a good experience with Strand last time, and that's what pushed it over. So that was the reason for our recommendation.
One of the questions I had right below that table, where it's looking at the financial considerations, it said that the approximate cost is about $8 million. But then when you look at the table down there, between the revenue bonds and the sewer utility, we're only accounting for $6.3 million.
Correct.
I guess where is the rest? Because even adding in, on the high end, the 640,000, it still isn't quite getting there.
So on that, what we have in that table there is our existing CIP that we put together a couple of years ago, and that was probably our estimate 2 years ago. Now the numbers are coming in higher. So when we readjust, when we go back to do the CIP next year, we'll be increasing that CIP. So what you see here is the existing CIP. So our new number exceeds the CIP because the CIP is a couple of years old, and the new numbers have come in pretty fresh. So that delta of $1 million or $1.5 million is that difference. So we will be refreshing that CIP to reflect a bigger number when we do that next year.
Okay, it was just a lot of money, so I didn't know where we were getting it from.
Isn't it crazy? $1 million here, $1 million there. So, but again, I see Ayers here, and I do want to say that your subcontractor knows what he's doing. He's good, and I know you feel bad, right? I mean, it's just like in an event, right? You have two, and one's going to win and one's going to lose. And in this case here, we went back and forth, and you look at it from every angle, and it just came down to the simple question at the end. If I has to ask you right now, who do you want to work with today? And then Bill and Dean said, let's go with Strand. So that's what it came down to, and had to pick one.
Were the consultants given an idea of what that matrix would look like to start with?
Yes. So in the packet, yes. And also we talked to each of them about that. So it does have that in there. And we talked to each of them about this because that was one of their concerns about how do we know what price tag to put on this? We really don't know what project we have. And the project is still developing. Even now, we don't know if we're going to revamp the building or build a bigger building or build a silo or build a storage shed so there was a little bit, I said, use ranges, use percentages, because it's going to be hard to get to an exact number because we don't really know what the project is exactly yet. That was a little bit difficult. And I think most every one of the consultants who put in the proposals asked that question, and that's how I explained it. So I know we want to give a lot of emphasis to the dollar scoring, but I still think it's pretty loose because we don't know what project we have. It's not good, but it's a fact.
What experience does the city have working with Ayers versus Strand? Like we most recently worked with Strand.
Yes.
Do we have a history with Ayers?
We've done yes. And did other things. Yes. And it had good successes as well. Yeah, you can, I think. Let Kellen, you can.
Yes, go ahead. And if you could just please state your name for the record.
Christy Trikel, I am with AIRS. I guess the main reason I wanted to show up tonight is just we were ranked exactly the same as Strand, and I guess I didn't realize the dollar figures were as far off as they were. I mean, to me, 120,000 is a lot of money, and as a ratepayer myself, that's something obviously I have a vested interest in which way you go, but I mean, just in general as a ratepayer, but then maybe you're saying, well, it's a $7 million project. What's 100,000? So I totally respect whichever way you go. I have nothing against Strand. I guess I just kind of wanted to point out, like, Mark Paschke from our architecture department, he built the building that's being remodeled right now. So he's done that. We, are very familiar with that. Strand, proximity wise, I mean, they're in Madison. We're right here, for construction. The construction fees are not in that range, from what I understand. And we gave a range in pricing too. So just, I kind of wanted to just throw that out, other things to consider. Obviously, I don't want to sway you to go against staff recommendation, but just kind of wanted to at least show up and ask a couple questions. So,
And those comments are fair, very fair.
I was just curious if Dean, if you had any particular thing in that 24-hour idea, maybe it didn't.
Dean? Yeah, I think it's for Dean.
Yeah. I in the business that I'm in, it's not always the low bid. We do design build projects, and sometimes it's the highest bid because we look at the entire, process.
The big thing, do I have to state my name?
Nope.
No.
The big thing the biggest difference between the two is we've been dealing with Strand for 3 years on this project. We've talked to Ryan. Ryan has been there for us when we needed him. Jim Smith is with a company that we've never dealt with. We don't have any relationship. That was one of the big reasons why we did this. That's all I got. As far as that, on paper, they're exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But we just felt that Strand has been there for us. They've worked for us before. And AIRS has as well, but the dryer portion of this is all Jim Smith. It's his baby, and we've never, ever worked with him. That was our deciding factor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dean.
And I would just say too, Dean did make a couple phone calls as well, so checking things out. Any more questions on that?
I guess I'll say not a question, just a comment. So I know as the council representative here, we're historically always going to, just like Mark had said, we're not in the business of taking a low bid, right? But we're not necessarily in the business of taking a high bid either. So I think from a recommendation standpoint, it might be helpful not to delay this, but if there's just any more context that can be provided just to help, because to be honest, it feels pretty subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing about it. I've been in business where I've done bids too, and it's the same thing. You're trying to dislodge a current supplier, and the process is meant to make it even, but you feel as though there's a weight that's placed in the fact that there's a current relationship. And if both have excellent work, the weight I would have as a council person, which, I always bring to the table here, we preach working with local business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Madison's in the state, so that's good, but River Falls is a little closer. So I think that has some weight. So I'm not against this, and I'm always reluctant to ever go against staff. I just wonder if there could be anything else that could be brought out to make me feel a little more comfortable on it.
Evan, is there a chance, so, adding any language into this, if there's Scott's negotiation on the contract can't get within a certain percentage or something like that, can this be revisited? I mean,
you could add that amendment if you would like. So let's look at.
because it does seem super, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to discount
No,
staff
this
or,
is good.
or
No,
Dean.
this-
I mean, it just,
This is why you bring it here, and this is why we have the process. So this is all good. I mean, if you want to have some language in there, so you know, not to exceed 550,000 or something like that. I mean, if you're not unable to negotiate that, we would revisit it. I mean, that's just an idea, if you feel comfortable with that. I mean, then it's up to you. I'm just throwing it out there just for,
And then if the amount can't get reached,
yeah.
a reason why, or, you know, so that this can be rediscussed, and not saying that the whole bid process we need to, you know, go
We have
through
a number,
again.
we
already
have a number 2 right here.
Right. I guess I'm just interested in seeing what the,
So if you can't get to 550, we would go with the second place.
What does that negotiation, for my own benefit, what does that negotiation with Scott look like?
So here's what it would look like. We would ask Strand for a contract, and they would propose a price. And then Scott would say, you need to do better on that price or I'm not going to sign it, because we have others that, you know, are offering a different price. And at that point, they can choose to try to match or not, I suppose, at that point. That would be at about just a little bit less than their low end of what they were proposing in their range. So,
can I ask one more question to the reps from AIRS really quick?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that I'm sorry, she just said your name, but I'm totally blanking.
Christy.
Mentioned that you built the existing building. Is that right?
Mark Paschke was the architect on the,
original building.
Okay.
I was the architect on this.
Okay. So, so I guess I don't know who Jim Smith is or why that individual was brought into the project when I guess there was already an existing relationship.
because we don't have the wastewater experience
Okay.
in-house. And so we've teamed up with Applied Technologies on multiple projects. This isn't just like a one-off teaming with them. We've teamed with them on multiple wastewater projects throughout the state.
Mm-hmm.
They also have a lot of dryer experience. I don't know the wastewater business as well as Jim obviously would, but you know, in talking with Jim, I believe Strand has done one dryer project and Applied has done 5 different projects. One of them had 12 dryers, I believe is kind of the numbers he's given me. So I think Strand has general biosolid experience, whereas Applied Tech, from my, again, this is my understanding, I feel like Applied Tech brings a lot of dryer experience to the project as well as us with the local presence. So.
Christy, when you say local, is that River Falls?
Yep. Yeah, our office is a block that way, and I live a mile or so that way. So, you know,
But Applied Tech is out of,
Applied Tech is out of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But
So
I would be
that's what we
covering
do.
most of the construction oversight. Obviously, Applied Tech would need to come for a couple things, but I would be covering, between Mark and I, would be covering most of the construction. Yep.
But that's the rub. I mean, we don't have in-house wastewater experience, so ATI is our partner in that aspect of the project.
Yep. Yeah, so that's why Jim Smith is brought in. We don't have, I mean, initially, actually, when Kevin sent it to me, I think I replied and said,
no.
we don't have this experience in-house, and actually Applied Tech reached out to us. And again, we've done projects with them before, but they reached out to us and said, hey, you want to team on this? So.
And we understand, you know, staff's, you know, recommendation in terms of having a prior experience with Strand in this capacity. Just, I guess, within their own publication, we're just looking for a little bit more explanation in terms of the scoring and, you know, the range of costs presented.
Right.
Again, I think we just felt like scoring wise, we're obviously pretty similar companies. And it seems like with us being local and the price lower, we just thought it was worth coming and asking a couple questions. So,
Kevin,
Yeah.
don't have any experience with Strand. What is their main type of business? Are they a multi-service architectural firm, or are they a mechanical wastewater consultant? I mean, I guess that,
They do more than wastewater, but they do have an emphasis on that, on wastewater.
yeah. So, I mean, it's always an interesting, your main project is wastewater. They partner with a local architect. I understand how that works all the time. But a lot of times you can say it's a wastewater project, so that importance may trump the, you know, other services you bring. And not that you couldn't do a fine job of reviewing or supervising the construction, but the design is a lot of times the absolute most important thing, I think, if you start off with something that's not quite as good. But
Well,
I mean-
and that's why we have applied tech in here.
yeah,
We
well,
weren't going to pursue it. on our own,
right, no,
so.
and I understand. It's just that argument with them being in Milwaukee and with us having less experience with them.
Understood.
I totally can see from Dean's perspective why a comfort level of one versus the other might be there. So, and if we were,
And that's fine.
and if it was a major building, Ayers would probably be our number one choice.
Yeah, I would just say this too, like the Applied Tech, we really hadn't heard much about them. They knocked our socks off. I mean, Jim Smith came here and he spent 3 hours. He asked all the right questions. The proposal came, very well done. But that was really our first go around with this company. I was like, wow, I didn't know much about them. And so when I'm saying I was impressed, I'm being sincere about that. But then weighing it out over time and talking to Dean and Bill and some of the things you're bringing up, and it's, you know, Strand of, obviously they lost most of their points, if not all of them, because 10 points were for the cost, right? See, they probably lost half their points on the cost.
That was my question. Looking at the rubric, it was weighted 10 points at cost. So assuming Ayers scored all 10 and Strand was presumably lower, where can we see the rest of the scoring?
I don't have that in the packet. Okay. And I was debating whether or not that's public or not. I don't know because we kind of, okay. I suppose if someone did a FOIA, we'd give it out. I mean, it's nothing, it's just numbers on sheets, but.
I think my conclusion is similar to Tim's, is that, you know, if at all possible, you know, when we first moved to this city, we talked to somebody, the builder of our home, and they said, you keep it local if you can. But on the flip side, I have always appreciated that position. Even the predecessor to Dean held his opinion very highly. So I'm going to lean towards the opinion of the city at this point. But I do like the idea of capping it.
And that's at your discretion, and I wouldn't be opposed to that.
All right, let me see if I can get this right. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the resolution approving the contract for wastewater treatment facility biosolids dewatering and drying services contract as it's written?
Well, actually, we're only approving the negotiation
Sure.
of the contract. We're not.
Right. I was gonna do the motion, the second, and then a motion to amend. Then we vote on that, and then vote again.
So for sake of discussion, I'll make a motion.
Mm-hmm.
I will make the motion as stipulated.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution, whereas if the dollar amount in the contract negotiated cannot be negotiated down to $550,000, by Strand that it is revisited with inclusion of errors in the discussion based on their original bid.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
All right. Then we. Yep. All right. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now going back to the original resolution with the amendment included. Is there any further discussion on that? All right. All those in favor of the resolution with the amendment included, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let us
That was
know
pretty good, Kellen. That was for Robert's rules. He must have been brushing up. That's pretty good.
Let's not do that again. At least not tonight. All right, so let us know how that turns out and if
We
we
will.
can get
So we'll
updates.
advance that to city council as amended. And then if they accept that, then we'll be working with Strand on that. And if they say there's no way we can do that, we're going to go to plan B. Which could be the case. I mean, maybe.
Okay. Moving on to new business item number 4, resolution regarding core fee reimbursement and option for River Falls non-resident utility customers.
This is an interesting one. I'll just give a brief explanation of the memo in your packet on this. So for four years ago, we started charging the CompCore CO for compost, RE for recycling, compost and recycling fee of $1.25 to all utility customers in River Falls. That was the intent. I don't know if when we passed that, we obviously didn't think it all the way through because we have 322 utility customers outside the city limits of River Falls. Thank you, Ayers. Thank you, Christine. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we had an oversight and didn't realize that 322 of our electric utility customers are outside the city of River Falls. About 3 months ago, Scott Simpson says, "Hey, are you sure you can be charging that fee to people in the township?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I thought so." And he says, "You might want to check on that with the city attorney," which the city attorney came back and said, cities are, according to the state statute that I have in the memo, cities are not allowed to charge a fee to someone outside of the city they represent. So we have 322 customers that were paying for the service, using the service, but we realized we shouldn't have been charging them because they're in the township. Sounds probably worse than it's going to end up being. Scott is advising that we do reimburse all those people for the 4 years of service, even though they may have used it, which would be $60 max if they lived at that residence for 4 years. Many of them didn't live there for 4 years. You can see worst case scenario would have been a little over $19,000. It's going to cost the fund about $14,223 that we're going to reimburse back. So we've already taken one step of stop charging them. That happened. 2, with your and council's approval, we will reimburse each of those customers in the form of a utility bill credit, what they are owed. And then thirdly, this is something Mr. Simpson was not endorsing, but our team talked him into it and said, I think there's a lot of these people who still want this service for $1.25, which is a pretty good value. We're going to offer them to continue it if they so choose. So we're going to give them the option to opt into that service for the $1.25. But so in state statute says if you give them the service and they intentionally opt in, then it's okay. So that was the difference. So that's where we're at with that. So we're asking for recommendation, I guess, to A, reimburse, and B, allow them to opt in. The stopping the service, we did that. Scott said do that immediately because that was matching state statute. It really wasn't a policy decision. That was a law decision. So,
and I understand this is maybe where Scott is coming from, but I mean, what's the legal, what is the most proper legal procedure to either allow them to use the service, or should we not be allowing them to use the service, or should we just charge them a fee as they use the service?
This was this was our conversation. So, the reason why I'm lobbying for it is because they've already got a taste of it. They probably like it. That's one. Two, they are our City of River Falls municipal utility customer. So that's the tie, right? They are a utility customer. We are offering them a city service, even though they're outside of the city limits. One could definitely make the argument, Scott was making the argument, they're in this township. No.
That they shouldn't be allowed
Shouldn't
to
be
use
allowed
the
even
service.
to use it. I'm saying we're asking them to be loyal utility customers. We're having them buy into the utility. We're offering service to the rest of the utility customers. So, it's probably emotional. I don't know, but I'm thinking it just feels right to at least offer it to them. They don't have to take it at this point. I think it's a good value. So
most of these customers are on the perimeter of the city?
correct. Woodridge is an example. There's farms on the edges of town off in the distance, but yeah, Woodridge is a good chunk out there. Out there, probably 100. So there's the examples where they're just off the edge of the city limits. They know they're not in the city, but they're electric utility customers.
Yeah, I mean, because their other option is, so they're out of the city and they can't use our refuge site, and so they can just burn their stuff.
There's that. So we do ask now, we are checking, right? We're having people bring a utility bill into the compost site the days of the week that they're open. So if they bring a recent one in that didn't have the charge on there for this month, they won't be able to use it. So there's been a little bit of but they'll probably bring an old one in. I don't know. So then the other piece of it is, should we even be reimbursing, right? I mean, I suppose you wouldn't have to. Scott just thinks it's the right thing to do, that we made an error, correct the error. That's the stance on that. I suppose even our attorney said, well, I suppose you wouldn't have to. There could be a little bit of a fight on that. Most of them probably use the service. Not everybody did. But just Scott says, let's do a clean break, reimburse the 60, utility bill credit. It's $14,000. We can say we did the right thing. Start over. Do you want the service or not? That was the philosophy behind this after our many, probably 3 discussions on this and other small groups, but legal discussions, trying to do the right thing. I don't know what Scott's feelings are about people in the township. I have an affinity to them because they're our utility customers. So that's why the recommendation is the way it is in front of you. We think it's a compromise and fair.
When I first read through this, my initial thought was, how many complaints have you received that I'm getting charged a core fee every month?
I had one.
One in 4 years.
I had one in the first month it happened.
If I'm not in favor of reimbursing, because I know some people who live in Woodridge.
Mm-hmm.
I know 3 people who live in Woodridge who use that service. So if you want to go honest,
right,
you say we could give you $60 back if you didn't use the service.
Mm-hmm.
If you did use the service, then accept the cost.
Yeah,
but going forward, I don't know what this is going to end up costing us. I guess I don't have a good feeling for how much it's filling now that we're regulating it.
When we initially calculated it, we figured the $1.25 times the 7,000 customers were going to be enough to cover the cost. So that was
So that should cover it then.
Yeah.
According to what you know.
Today's numbers, unless the costs go up and we have to raise that or whatever. But,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So when we did that 4 years ago, we brought it, I think, to this board and to city council, and there was a matrix of revenues and expenses and what that was going to be.
My opinion would be to just let it be and not offer any reimbursement, but ask them if they want to stay on it. That's my opinion. So if it passes as is, I'm going to vote no.
So let me ask you how complicated it would be to customers that are going to choose to opt out.
No, you're only going to be able to opt in. So everybody's going to be out unless we hear from you that you opted in.
Okay, so you're out. So if you opt in, you don't get your $60 back. If you stay out, you do.
Right.
I mean, I suppose that's
I've heard that thought too. I've heard that thought too.
because to me it's good. It's good value. I mean,
It's an excellent value
to have this service
for $15 a year. That's a great value.
And people, to Mark's point, the people that have actually used it probably say, "Well, I don't want that $60 back because I got my value for it." But
We chatted about that too, because then it's like, is it the honor system of somebody that's going to go, well, keep it, I used it. You're probably going to have 50 that say that. Which then, okay, I don't know. But that's the honor system, and and then you're going to have a neighbor going, well, they used it and they took the 60. I mean, so that's why we had this conversation, all these scenarios. We just said, clean break, give them the 60, start over. That's why, because you would have these, well, they did, they didn't, I only used it once. You'd have every scenario that we can't even think of today.
My position is the opinion of the city attorney is that we shouldn't have done this in the first place, right? And somebody so inclined could take this up and fight us for it and say that we've been charging outside of our means, and that presents a problem in legal costs, defense costs, whatever it would be. $14,000 seems reasonable to just say done over. We may have overstepped. It was an accident that we recognized and took steps to correct and did the right thing in the long run. I feel like that's my choice, my suggestion, or my belief. We overstepped. We're trying to make it right. You used it, you didn't use it, whatever. We never had an opportunity, or never had the reach to actually charge this $15 a year anyways.
You said it better than I was trying to say it.
But then, Adam, you'd still let them opt back in if they wanted to?
Yeah, I'll speak to what Adam said. Oh, hold on, keep it on here. So I know where Mark's coming from. I understand that perspective, but I had the same thought Adam had, which was the city attorney recommended it. That seems to be a prevailing thought here because just of the costs associated with. And now that we're having this discussion in public, which is good, sunlight being a good disinfectant, right? It might actually open us up to that coming up more. So I think we should probably proceed with this resolution as is, and then just people will have to opt in, understanding the way it's written that they're currently opted out until they're in.
I'd be interested to see how many people will opt back in. Out of 300, do you think half of them will? I don't know. It'd be interesting.
It's a good service. It's a
just
nice
I mean, there's
service.
no better value.
What about these people outside when it comes to our citywide cleanup, our electronic cleanup?
Yeah, so if you're paying the $1.25, here's what you get for the $1.25: spring cleanup, fall cleanup, electronic recycling, and use to the compost site. Those 4 things are included in the $1.25
So they're out of everything.
right now.
If they want to opt in, then they'll continue the charge. How about an out-of-state fee? Like we do for
How about a license
fishing
plate?
license?
How about a license plate reader down there, and you can have a fee structure? Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get those 4 things for $15 a year.
Yeah, maybe a quick thought, and I know you're really good at this already, Kevin, and your team is, but yeah, just market it that way, right? So they really understand this is what your core fee that you're choosing to opt back in gets you. Because we were just talking about, man, we know if we called up, for-profit folks, right, and did it that way, when you're dumping off your stuff, you're looking $60, $100. How many gorilla bags do we see across the community, right? Just because we're all looking for easy ways to get rid of things.
And let me explain all this for the record too, for spring and fall cleanup. So that is a service that we did negotiate in our trash contract. So they provide the trucks, the people, and all of that to put on that event for the 6 days in the spring and fall. We still have to pay for the tonnage of that. So whatever they haul away, we get a bill for that, which is $6,000 or $7,000 an event. So that's roughly $12,000 or $13,000 a year that we pay out of the core fee for spring and fall cleanup. The rest of spring and fall cleanup is paid for in your trash bill. And then the compost site, maintaining that, and then electronic recycling, that one tends to be pretty expensive. I think last year was $23,000 for electronic recycling. So that's double of spring and fall cleanup just for the one electronic recycling event. So that, I say that just for context. And the compost site probably costs us $30,000 or $40,000 a year too to run that. So,
But, the results are that you have a lot less white goods parked in people's backyards instead of, they have an option to get rid of them they don't even realize they've actually paid a little bit for it, and they get rid of it and they're happy and everybody's happy, instead of just having a few properties that might be reluctant to spend any money to get rid of anything. So, what a win-win.
keeping our town clean. I mean, that's kind of the objective of it.
All right. Looking for a motion to approve the resolution authorizing a core fee reimbursement and an option for River Falls non-resident utility customers.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Moving on. Kevin, reports.
Yeah,
Finance report?
financial reports. This is happy to report that all of our positions for electric, water, and wastewater all are better this year than they were last year, if you took a look at that. So year to date, we're plus 375,000 for electric. Last year, we were negative 142 at the same time. You can see we're buying more electricity. We're selling more electricity, but we're also buying $1 million more of electricity. But there's other areas on the delta that we're making money. So we're about 450,000 above where we were last year at this time. So that's a positive for electric. And I said, everybody be patient with water. It's coming around, and it's come around. So we're plus 319,000 on water. People are watering. On that note, up in the Highview Meadow area, irrigation has become so popular in a lot of the new construction that Dean is fighting a little bit of some water pressures. If you know anybody who lives up in the Boulder Ridge area and in the Highview Meadow area, sometimes in the mornings you'd be taking a shower, and then the reports are, it feels like my skin's going to get blown off by the water pressure. So because of the way they're irrigating, Dean is trying to balance when the well comes on, when the booster pumps go off, and when the water tower is emptying. And he's working with Jane and Nyhagen, who did the engineering on that, and trying to level that out. But I blame irrigation, but a lot of the irrigation systems are going on. It's causing some of these pumps to run when they're not supposed to, or they're not ramping up the right time. So that was a long way of getting to irrigation is raising our dollar amounts for water, and it's also causing some other issues with pumping. So if you hear anybody up in that area, we're working on it.
They still make water pressure regulators for houses?
They do.
I installed one once on a house. It's pretty easy.
Yes. So if we don't have that where we have pressures over 100, but if you do, then we would have a PRV, pressure reducing valve, would be required on that. So you may be getting bursts of 90 or something like that, but yeah, around 90 now.
I think that's called exfoliating.
Right. That was a term we had a young lady use that, I guess, because I've been exfoliated. I'm like, I want some of that pressure in my house.
Very brief person.
Very brief.
Literally seconds.
So I'm going to tell you, this is a little side story, but for Dean, don't blush. But here's how dedicated this guy is. He'll go stand out at that pump house at 2 in the morning and watch it run. So then he's watching the gauges, see what's happening, see when the irrigation's coming on, listening to the pumps when they're operating, watching the charts. So dedicated. So he knows when the problem is 1 in the morning, 5 in the morning. So we can look at the charts, but he wants to see it, hear it, watch it. So we're working on it. We are not ignoring it.
Have you guys done any publicizing of this?
We
to that
haven't.
Neighborhood?
Dean and I actually talked about that, and we haven't. Maybe I said we would after we start working on it so people can know. I think we don't know enough, and then what happens is then without enough information, you get bad rumors or bad innuendos and not. So I want more information before I share to know why I can say, this is the problem, this is what we're doing. Right now, it might be 3 things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did. So we
that.
did talk seriously because Dean said you should let people know, and I said I just know if I don't know enough, you let people know, then I feel like I'm open to bad debates and like you don't know what you're doing and you haven't thought about this and what about. I mean, yeah, we're trying to figure it out. So I think once we get a little tighter, maybe let people know what went on, and maybe next year might have the same thing. And the people who have asked, we've told all those people. So, and if you're not taking a shower right at that moment, you wouldn't know. Those 98% probably don't know.
Sure. We had that when we first moved in. We had pressure fluctuations like that. We were kind of in the end of the line, but our first call wasn't to the River Falls utility; it was to a plumber.
Sure.
So that might be a benefit to people too. Just so that, like you say, though, you want to know.
Right.
On division. This was 20 plus years ago. So, yep.
So let me recount it too. I'm not hiding any of those facts, but I haven't been promoting or marketing those facts either.
Yep. I can appreciate why.
So I'm not hiding it, but we're not telling people, hey, you might get high pressure. Maybe we should again. Give us another week to. And here's the other piece of that. I mean, once you get to September, that's going to calm down.
Oh, right. Or we start to get some rain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Thanks for your understanding on that. So, yeah, financial statements look really good this year. We're happy with that.
Utility dashboard.
I don't think I have anything to add to those. Dean, anything at the wastewater plant you'd like to discuss? That's anything pretty straightforward this month. Everything's pretty straightforward. No news is good news on the utility dashboards. All the reports in there too are pretty straightforward from all of our superintendents. So nothing on that. So maybe I'll just leave you with this Thursday again, 4 to 6 o'clock. We have our customer appreciation event. So I know Kellen is planning on shucking corn again and surfing corn, so you can hope for a cool night. And Adam's going to be out there as well. So if you want to come join, you're more than welcome to. If you want a T-shirt, I think Lenny has T-shirts for you. If you want to be part of that event and you're around. And we're anticipating, if the weather's good, probably 1,500 people this year. We've had 1,000 in the 11 o'clock to 1 p.m. hour. And we're thinking, since it's 4 to 6, we believe it's going to be more people. So it'll bear out. But we're planning for 1,500. We're going to have live music. Tommy Bent's band will be playing up under the shelter by the depot there. And we'll have bounce houses. We're going to block off the street. There'll be all the city big trucks there, fire trucks, other big trucks, bounce houses. Kellen, bring the kids down.
We will. I'd be remiss, though, if I didn't ask about the hydros and any updates on those and any big checks that have come in or anything like that.
No other updates other than the Army Corps of Engineers is asking us if we want to participate in a study about the restoration of the river and removing both dams. They've been asking us about that. We have been giving them no answers. Amy Peterson is now starting to help work on that from community development. I think next month she's going to come here and give you a little update on what's going on with that next month. So that's where this at. But no other checks have come in, Kellen.
I'm sure very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon. Yep, it's already in the mail. Anything else? Looking for a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.